Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Taking Over the Photo Pit, a music photography podcast held by me, Boston Schulz, where I interview badass music photographers. Today, I am so excited because I'm sitting down with Zizi, and Zizi has not only incredible, vibrant, beautiful photos, but she also has an Instagram dedicated to vintage cameras. So in this episode, we talk a lot about her camera collection, how she got involved in that, how she got involved in working in the music industry, taking the incredible badass photos that she takes, and just like sharing some tips and knowledge. And it's a great one, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Hi, Zizi. I am so excited to have you on the podcast. I love talking to everyone, and I'm so excited to have you here because you are across the world from me, and I find that very exciting. But also I want to talk about everything to do with your photography, your style, like everything. We're going to dive into it. Everyone get ready.
That's great.
But Zizi, can you introduce yourself for everyone listening? Tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got started in music photography, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Hello. My name is Zizi. I am a concert photographer, and I am based in Columbus, Ohio. I am right now talking to you from Rio. That's where I was born and raised, but I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I shoot for different publications, but mainly for a Columbus radio station, the rock station in Columbus, which is 99.7 The Blitz.
Love it. So what made you choose Columbus, Ohio? I gotta ask.
Well, I did not choose. I got to Columbus like a long way around, right? So I was born and raised in Rio, like I said. Then I went to school, UC Riverside. And then after school, I ended up moving to Arizona. And then I got married and we moved to Atlanta, then to Michigan, to Ohio, then to Asia. I lived in Asia for almost 6 years. And
Wow.
then go back to Ohio. And that was because of my husband's company, the way the company he worked for transferred us around. And now we have been in Columbus, Ohio since July 2013.
Wow. I love how you moved around all of these different places. Did you do photography all in those places?
No, actually, I started doing photography as I'm gonna say serious or official because I am the kind of person who I really believe in formal instruction. I like going to school and sitting down with somebody when I want to learn how to do something.
Okay,
So I
got
went
it.
to school for photography while I lived in Manila, the Philippines. And that was in 2008, I believe, that I went to school. And so during the whole time that I lived in Asia, from 2008 to 2013, I did photography for travel photography, and I started concert photography there.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I moved back to the US, then I slowly started. It took me a little bit of time. It took me actually almost 5 years to get, you know, a full on entry into the music scene and doing photography.
Okay, got it. And did you do other types of photography, or was it primarily just focused on concerts and music?
When I went to school for photography, I started, basic photography 101. It was like the technique, the principles of photography and all that. And then as my courses in different types of photography advanced, um, because you had the introduction to everything, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
introduction to portraiture, being natural light or being studio photography, street photography, landscape. You go on and on. And then I met this girl that was super cool, and not in school, but I met her while going out, and she was the band manager to this very cool new band.
Mm.
And I started, going out to all of their gigs. I went to their very first gig, and I was also in school for photography, so it just made sense to me that I would carry my camera around, right? So they suffered to a lot of me in front of their stage because I really kind of like get my started by practicing on them, basically.
Nice.
And then as their band grew and they started doing a lot of gigs and then big shows, they also were part of a tour that was sponsored by Jack Daniels, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
kind of like it was a tour competition kind of thing. It was called the Chosen One, because you know how Jack Daniels has the number 7 on the
Uh-huh.
front. So they started with 7 bands, and they would. It's kind of like the format would be like a battle of the bands,
Got it.
but you get voted on by each person that was at the event would buy Jack Daniels to drink, and they would have a ballot, and the ballot would go for the band of their choice,
Mm-hmm.
and then start narrowing down until the chosen one.
Got
And
it.
they won that tour competition, and it was like a 2.5 year thing. And I did it the whole thing with them.
That's
It was
awesome.
it was amazing, and I got a lot of practice from it. A lot of practice with huge venues and small venues, and well produced events, as well as dirty bar events. So I got
Yeah.
the whole scope of it, and not only of them as a band, but also the competing bands.
Yeah.
So it was really great for me as a stepping stone to learn the ropes.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I've heard from so many people of just like getting started in music photography. We kind of just like show up and start taking pictures, and that's how a lot of people get into it. And I love that you just like met someone and then started going to these gigs and were along for the ride the whole time. That's awesome.
Yes, it was great. We, felt like I was a, a mix of, band big sister, and also, their friend, and, we became a big family. So it was great. It was great to see their progress, and they were very supportive of mine as well.
I love that. I think that's awesome. You talked a little bit about going to school for photography. Is that something that you recommend, like anyone and everyone to do?
I know this is a little bit controversial, okay? And nothing that I say here means that it's the right way or this is how it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own way to go about things.
100%.
I'm not claiming to be an expert or, the honor of truth. However, with my personality, the kind of person I am, um, I do like to learn something formally. I read the manuals in everything that I buy.
I
I'm
love
that kind of
that.
person. I am that kind of person. So it makes sense that to me, it makes sense that if I wanted to do photography, I wanted to learn the basics and technique. And
Mm-hmm.
I know my camera, backwards, because I know all the functions, I know how everything works,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that technique is not everything, but to be an artist, you need that. people say like, oh, you have a great eye, but a great eye is not going to make your camera perform
Mm-hmm.
the way you expect. And in some people just go and stumble upon like, oh, I figured out what this button does. And um, I am not like that. I prefer to read the manual and find out. And as far as general principles of photography and learning technique and learning how to develop a style, to me personally, that was very beneficial to
Mm-hmm.
be with other people who were learning to have somebody that was guiding the group towards this is how you should go about to get to point B now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I even if you cannot go to school in a formal setting, there are a lot of courses that you can purchase online
Mm-hmm.
and do that instead. But I find that for me is very important to learn things um, in a structured way that I can predict the next step. So I know how to use my camera in aperture mode, and I know when I needed to do in manual mode, and when I had, all of those things. And also composition and lighting techniques and posing,
Yep.
because we are doing, at concerts, we are accessing all of that knowledge. We are
Mm-hmm.
accessing the lighting knowledge and posing knowledge and composition. It's just done on the fly, like really fast, and sometimes you're no, you're breaking those rules, but it's coming to you as you
Yep.
are there, analyzing and reading the scene in front of you.
Yeah. I completely understand like what you're saying. The idea of knowing your camera is going to help you be a better artist. Like you can have a great eye and everything, and to your point, if you know your camera, it'll help you get the better picture because you're helping your camera to perform better, pretty much.
Not only that, but you have to know your equipment limitations as well. You have to know how to get what you need from your equipment, and you also have to know when your equipment will not be able to perform the
Mm-hmm.
way you want it to, because there are limitations in every piece of equipment.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about like how you kind of like do work and get work in the music industry. Like, do you tour with bands? Do you work with publications? You mentioned working with the radio station. So, are you fully focused on the radio station and getting content for them? Or, like, what does your kind of workload look like?
When life was normal,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
when life was normal, um, I was working, my last year, so 2019 and
Mm-hmm.
up until March of 2020, my main focus was the radio station. As their special events photographer, I was a contracted employee,
Mm-hmm.
and had I had a list of events throughout the calendar year that I had to cover for them, because they do sponsor a lot of big concerts in the city. So they have a concert series that they promote, and I was there to take photos and then provide the content to their website and to their social media
Mm-hmm.
for their fans and the bands and all that. Then, for a little bit of that time, I was also the house photographer for a venue called the Rosa Villa, and I do not know if you know about them. Um, I found out when I was in Hong Kong that is world known,
Oh,
because somebody in Hong
nice.
Kong said like, "You work for the Rosa Villa," and I'm like, "Well, yes." And so I was the house photographer for them. Then also was working for a couple of online magazines.
Nice.
So there was a lot going on, but my main calendar was filled in with work for the radio station, and then second the venue, and
Hmm.
then lastly by the freelance collaborations with online publications.
Got it. Is there anything that you do differently when you're working with these different kind of like partners or like clients, I guess? Like, are your pictures and like what you produce different for when you're a house photographer versus like working for a radio station?
Um, just a little bit. Um, I think that knowing the needs of each client, right? So when I'm shooting for um, the radio station has a lot of fans of the station.
Mm,
So it was important that I always had those crowd shots.
got it.
Somebody would show up with the radio station T-shirt, and when the jocks, the radio jocks, the on air personalities would be on stage to present the acts.
Mm,
I would be taking photos of them, and because it's like I said, it's the largest rock station in Columbus. People even would know me by name because they would be on the, they're like, oh yeah, there's Zizi, of the station. Then when I was shooting for the venue, there is also a focus on how you portraying the venue. It's not just the
mm-hmm.
act. It's we had a series of green room uh, portraits that we did for the venue. So
Nice.
their green room had a logo on the floor, and we would always the band right before the band hits the stage, they would pose, standing on top of this logo, and that was something that was always done. That we didn't need it. I didn't need to do that for the radio station, for example.
Got it.
Um, and then, for the online magazine, it was all stage photos. They didn't take crowd shots or venue shots really. So
Got it.
it's basically this is the same type of photography, the same style. You just added, we had a added need for each client.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's great to have like a reminder for everyone that's listening that like things are required per client, like per whoever you're shooting with. They might want something unique, something special, something custom, and to just like adjust your time to make sure that you get those shots. But that makes
Right,
total sense to get those venue shots for the venue, those crowd shots for the radio station, because they care about the fans and all of that.
right.
So, one of the things I wanted to ask you that I'm obsessed with is your Instagram account for your vintage camera collection. So, I was like going through your Instagram and I was like, okay, her work is amazing. Definitely want to talk to her. And then I saw your Instagram for your camera collection, and I was scrolling through and I was so impressed by all the different cameras you have. So I want to talk about this. How did you get started collecting? Why? And
All
like,
right.
why did you make the Instagram account? Because I was obsessed as I was scrolling through it. Loved it.
All right. So to answer your question, it's important to say that is a vintage camera collection. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like I have like 300, and like brand new cameras sitting around.
Yeah.
Those are all vintage, right? Well, I started because when I moved back to the US from living in Asia for that time, for almost 6 years, I was quite depressed. I had, you know, moved from um, a lifestyle and friends and
Mm-hmm.
activities that I really enjoyed, and I was very sad to come back to the U.S.
Mm.
And I did not have, connections to the music, you know, scene, and I had a handful of friends because I had lived in Columbus before. I had a handful of friends, but I felt very lonely because the lifestyle was so different.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my friends that I had for the longest time, um, she gifted me with three or four cameras that were in her basement that used to belong to her when she was a girl, and to her deceased husband. She's a woman that she's a little bit older than I, and she had already, you know, lived through, an adult life that she had stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
she had a husband, and then she had those things, and she knew that I had this passion for photography, and I mentioned to her like, oh, I really like this old analog cameras, and she's like, let me see what I have, and she brought me these cameras, and you know, it was like I was bitten by that bug immediately.
Oh, I love
She
it.
uh she, she gave me those cameras, and I'm like started like to cleaning and polishing and opening and like looking at all the buttons and researching online to see what model it was and what year was released, and sometimes I would find out what was the original price on that, and
Mm.
how does it fit? Was it considered an expensive camera? Was it an entry level, or was it a professional camera? So that took a lot of my time. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what I needed at that time. I really needed that focus on something that I liked, but that occupied me a lot of time. And I am like nerdy in that way that I'm very happy when I'm learning stuff. So from that point on, I started like, all right, so we're gonna go find more, and I would go on eBay and research what it was in eBay. But I had some parameters of what I wanted. I didn't want to just any camera. I
Uh-huh.
wanted things that I'm very into the Art Deco period. So I wanted something kind of like the 40s. They had certain look to it,
Got it.
or mid-century that it was kind of like those that have the color and they're made of bakelite, and it could not have anything missing or anything broken, no fungus, no rust, even though I was not going to use it, and it could not be super expensive because I'm buying my equipment that I actually use.
Mm.
So it grew into I have over 70 cameras right now.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yes, and I did put it on Instagram separately for that
Mm-hmm.
because um, I believe that it is like a a little side of my work and my
Yeah.
personality. I have like, and I wanted to have the visual identity of my feed to be a certain look too. I wanted to be cohesive. So I felt that if I was putting like, pictures of Jonathan Davis and next to me holding a camera, that would be a little bit incoherent.
Yeah.
So I separated, I made two separate feeds because of
Yeah.
that. Um, but yeah, and it's kind of cheesy because it's always me holding a camera. But I did that way so people can see the scale of the camera, because I noticed when I was purchasing them online, and they would just have the picture of the camera itself, and then when I would receive it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so tiny. I thought that it was, like the size of my hand at least, or vice versa. Sometimes it was huge and I was expecting something the size of my phone, maybe. So this is why I do like the cheesy thing of holding each camera next to my face and all that, so you can visualize, and understand the size of the camera in
Yeah.
reality.
I loved it. I thought it was really cute to see the pictures of you with the cameras, because also if it's a like personal thing that you love doing and love like cleaning up these cameras and researching them, it's like very personal to you and your collection. So I love that like the pictures are you and the cameras. So I loved it. I thought it was really fascinating, and I think that I was drawn to it because I have been slowly over the years that I've been doing photography, I've been gifted cameras. And then I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with this? This is from like, I
You
got grandparents'
send
cameras from like the
you can
60s or
send it to
something.
Zizi.
Yeah. Perfect. Everyone send Zizi your old film vintage camera.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do get a lot of gift cameras
I
actually.
love that.
I love, people who, they find in their parents' stuff and they're like, I have no real appreciation for it. I do not know what
Mm-hmm.
to do. It's going to be a paperweight in my house. And I know how much joy you get out of it. So here.
Oh
So
my
I
gosh, I
do,
love
I,
that.
I have acquired a lot of cameras that way. They were gifted to me. And of course, I appreciate it so much. Um, but yeah, I love them. I love them so much. They make me happy. I have a room set up in my house, my office, and they are all lined up on the walls. And
Oh my
then
gosh, I love
I
that.
ran out of wall space. Then I got a cabinet at IKEA that is like it looks like a glass. It's a glass cabinet basically, and I
Mm.
adapted little LED lights inside to shine into
Oh,
the.
nice.
Yes. So they're very pretty.
I love it. Okay, so I have to ask though, what's your favorite camera?
I don't know. There are some that are so trippy. I think that the ones that I always show people are first. There's one that is a stereo camera. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
So stereo cameras were something that were around the 70s, late 60s to mid 70s, something like that. And they were cameras that were slide. They produced the slides,
Mm.
and to view those slides, you needed a slide viewer. And those viewers, when you look through them and you put your slide there, it would look like it's a 3D effect. The camera itself, it has two lenses side by side. So one takes a photo on the right side,
Ah.
the other one takes a photo on the left, and it kind of overlaps a little bit when it develops into the slide. So it's kind of like the 3D glasses that you put on. So it does
Yeah.
that. It makes the photo go foreground and background has that separation. And if you look on my feed of my Instagram feed, is the one that I'm holding above my forehead like this and looking under because it's like it's so big and it looks like it looks like a binocular. When somebody sees it, they first goes like, "What is that? Is that binocular?" And I'm no, it's a camera, a stereo camera. I thought that stereo was only for sound, but it's actually left and right, and that's why it's called
Got
stereo.
it. Yeah, I think I have heard of those before, but I don't think I've ever seen one.
I have the photos there, and it's a very unique looking thing, and I really like that. And in fact, I also have another one of those. So the one that I'm talking to you about that I'm holding above my head on the picture. That one is an American model, but I have a Russian one as well that's made of uh, bakelite. So it's like the kind of plastic that is like a hard plastic,
Mm-hmm.
and it has three, like, so two objectives, and then one that is the viewer, and they are in a triangle formation, so I look like a tri like Triclops. It's
Nice.
wild. It's called a Sputnik. I mean, how cool is that?
That's pretty
You
cool.
have you have a camera that's called Sputnik. So yeah, so I like that too a lot. And yeah, so those are very unique to show people. And the last one that I'm gonna mention to you, it's quite common camera to find in US if you want to start a collection.
Mm.
And it's a camera that the nickname is the Brick. The brand is Argus,
Okay.
and the model is a C30. And that camera, it's not kidding you. It's probably 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds, something like that. And it's in the shape of a brick, and and it's beautiful. It looks very steampunk in a way, you know. It has a lot of like little engines and like little
Yeah.
dented, and they made in different colors the finish.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that I have two in like two different colors of it, and they are in perfect condition. And you can buy it, to start a collection, just to have something different. You can buy some of those cameras because they were American made and they were mass produced.
Uh-huh.
You can find one for, you know, $40. And if you take your time choosing it, you can choose one that is like a complete one that doesn't have dents or, you know, no buttons missing or anything. And it's so pretty.
You are making me want to start a camera collection because I love when people are really excited about really anything. And that's kind of why I started this podcast, is I love hearing people talk about being in the industry and being excited and like being excited about photography and like having such an exciting collection and like really diving into it and loving it just makes me excited to hear that. So I highly recommend everyone who's listening, like, definitely go check out Zizi's Instagram with all of her vintage camera collection because it is really cool and really unique, and I loved just scrolling through it. So
Thank you. Thank you. I am always very excited to share. In the future, I plan on doing a YouTube channel showing each camera. I
love
haven't
that.
done because I am shy to speak in front of a camera.
It definitely is hard to get in front of a camera and
It
speak
is.
when we're so used to being behind the camera.
Not only that, I mean, if somebody's in front of me, like, if I can see you and we can talk is one thing,
Hmm.
but looking at the camera and talking, you know, I am aware that I have an accent. And I always wonder if people are gonna understand or if it's gonna sound worse in when it's recorded. And that makes me like step back a little bit. I'm like, okay,
Mm.
I'll do it next year or something.
I think that you should go for it. I mean, I fully love talking to you right now, so I'm saying 100% you should go for it. But I
um,
also, that's selfish of me because I just want to see more of your cameras.
it's a project that at some point will take off. Let's see.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so I want to step back for a little bit and talk a little bit more about the music industry because one of the things that I kind of started this podcast to talk about is just kind of like being in the music industry and any issues, prejudices, anything that you've faced in the industry, and like tips and advice. So, really quickly, I wanted to ask you if you're comfortable talking about it, obviously, if you've ever faced any sort of prejudice or sexism from being in the music industry, and if so, how did you handle it?
No, I'm totally comfortable talking about it. Perhaps because I have nothing to report that's negative.
I
You know,
love hearing
I
that.
I understand that if something has happened to some people that has caused some sort of trauma or angst that would be difficult to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been very fortunate that I have had a lot. I was given so many opportunities, and people just say like, "Hey, I like you. Come shoot for me,"
I love that.
and that I think I had that uh, these opportunities being thrown my way by women and by men.
Perfect.
So I really can't say. Of course, there is somebody that's an asshole every once in a while. It kind of rubs you off in the wrong way, but I don't think it's because they were of a specific gender. I just think they are assholes, and that's all it is.
100%.
It's not because it was a male asshole or a female asshole or anything. It was just any.
An
I don't think it
asshole.
was. It was just an asshole, just in general. Some people have no manners, some people have
Mm-hmm.
no tact, and there are a lot of people who have an attitude. They walk around feeling like, they're boss, but what's gonna tell me that you're boss? Let me see your pictures. Let me see
Yeah.
what you got.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because you're sitting there like, because you're big or because you're beautiful or whatever that are gonna feel intimidated. I'm never intimidated by anybody in the pit. So I had a guy once. Um, I'm gonna tell you quickly this story because I always remember because it was a very unique situation. I never had anybody say anything like that to me. It was a small venue. There was no pit. It was packed. There was a side in the side of the venue. There was a stairway that led to the second, to like a balcony. And it was like two people wide, if that. So it was
Mm-hmm.
a narrow. Uh, and I saw that there was a photographer there, um, that we could have a view of the stage. So I kind of like snuck by it, right? And I looked at him and said, "Hi, can you share your spot with me?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then next thing he says like, "Who you shooting for?" And I said, "Oh, I'm shooting for the radio station for the Blitz." And his next comment was, "What did you have to do to get that kind of job? You get paid,
Oh.
don't you?" And I said, "I do get paid, and I had what I had to do. I have to be good, which I am." And then he looked at me. He's like, "Well, how good?" And I'm like, "I'm excellent." And he's like, "Well," and I'm like, "Well, whatever, let's shoot. And
Yeah.
then next thing you know, it's like this guy 3 days later is trying to like he start following my feed and he start like wanted to be friends on Facebook, and I'm like, whatever, dude. And I'm like, all I wanted him to tell him is like, you see, I'm good. So that's why I got that job. And it's not because I'm like being a pompous ass either. It's just
Yeah.
like, don't tell me that it's because I'm a girl or because I have
Mm-hmm.
boobs or whatever it is that assholes think that are the reasons for you to achieve something, because it's not. I work well. I make images that I believe I am very passionate and I'm very proud of my work. I
Yeah.
believe that my images tell a story and have an emotion, and people like to work with me. I work fast. I talk to everybody. I'm always asking what they need. How can I make it better?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I'm not an asshole, and I give good pictures, which
Yeah.
is good enough for most people.
Yeah. I love the idea of just being like, yeah, I'm good. I do good work. I'm a good photographer, and like just shutting people up that way. I think that's fantastic because normally I don't know if people just like don't. I don't know what they're expecting when they say shit like that. But to just
I
be
don't.
like, I got my job because I'm good at it. Like, I
Yes,
love
because at
that.
that point, what are you gonna be? I think that his maybe, maybe not. But maybe at that point, somebody wants to just intimidate you and throw
Yeah.
you off your game,
Yep.
you know? And I cannot imagine there was anything else behind it
Yeah.
besides just bullying me a little bit to see how I would react. And that didn't work, you know? But
Yeah.
again, it's not like I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the shit. I'm so good. You know, it's not that. But I had to shut him down in a
Yeah.
way that I felt that was dignified, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, you're not lying. Your work is very good. So I love
Thank
that.
you.
I think that's fantastic. Um, and just in general, do you have like advice for anyone who's in the industry? Maybe it's someone who's dealing with assholes like that. Any tips, advice, things that have like helped you out in this industry? I would love to hear what they are to pass them on to anyone who's listening.
Well, I think that the advice would be, it's not only pertaining to other photographers in the pit or anything like that. I think it's in life. You have to be. I'm not saying you have to be because not everybody is because it's not their style.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think that a level of confidence, of self confidence, and knowing your place and your own importance in everything will make you be able to deflect a situation that is not what an undesirable situation per se.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, it, I think that the same, I would have the same approach um, if I was not in the pit. If I, sometimes I have people call me today. I got like this strange message of like, are you the photographer? I need pictures from you. And I'm like, nobody approaches me like that. And it's like, I am in Solomon. I'm like, okay, what type of pictures and where are you located? And like, I'm in Solomon Island. Do you know where that is? And I'm like, yes, it is too far. I'm not gonna go to Solomon Island. Are you planning on coming to my studio? Oh, please don't text me anymore because I know it's not a real business call
Yeah.
or a text message rather. But it's being confident that when people are approaching you for your work, and know when people are approaching you because they either have their own insecurities or their ill intentions, whatever. So you just, it's like I've never been a shy person, and
Mm.
I told you I'm shy for the camera, but in person I'm not. Um, I am, as you can tell, quite talkative, and if somebody is cool to me, I'm absolutely always gonna be cool back. If
Love that.
somebody is kind of like started being like has like a shitty first impression, then I kind of like hold back. I'm not gonna go and start like drama or anything like that. I just like, okay, maybe this is not for me, and
Uh-huh.
But I think that in general, you have to. Anybody has to know their importance and their um, their value in that situation that they are
Yeah.
in.
I love that. I think that having confidence, like you said, in the industry and just in general in life is such a good thing, and it'll definitely get you far. Well, I know that we've been talking for a while, so I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
And this is, if you could shoot any one band or musician for a single song, who would it be and what song would it be?
I think you're going to be disappointed with my answer.
I want to hear it.
Okay, I cannot choose like a specific band. I can tell you bands that I have had the opportunity to photograph and that have left an impression greater
Mm-hmm.
than others. And I can tell you that most of the time, I am not listening to what's going on. I think that the
Ah.
way my brain works is I shut everything else off and I only watch.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I cannot say, I want to see a band playing this because it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Got it.
I went once to shoot a band that I had never seen live before, and I did not really know their music. And it's Coheed and Cambria.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They were on a tour with Mastodon, which I absolutely adore.
Mm.
I will go to a Mastodon show 3 days in a row, and I just wanna be there because I love their music.
Yeah.
But I did not know Coheed's music, and I'm telling you, I was shooting that, and something about the song that they were playing, it was filtering through, even though I normally don't pay attention. I kept on like, so I left the pit and I went to look for what song it was. So I listened to it on the way home. I looked for the set list because you can find the set list for that evening, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, it was like the second song, and I found and I played it in the car, and I became a fan of the music, but typically I do not pay super attention to it.
I
Um,
love
I'm
that.
very focused visually only, but shooting the Foo Fighters is always tremendous experience for me just because the vibe is so
Mm-hmm.
intense that you just feel happiness. You turn around and you look at an audience behind me and everybody's smiling.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you're shooting other bands and people are like throwing like horns in the air,
Uh-huh.
angry and letting it out. But when you're shooting the Foo Fighters, you turn around and everybody has this big smile on their face,
Yeah.
and that to me is like a great experience. So I love shooting the Foo Fighters for that reason, um, because it's great bubble of happiness when
Yeah.
it's happening. But
I
yeah, are you
love that.
disappointed?
No, I'm not disappointed in the answer. I think that's fantastic. I love hearing about how like people shoot too, and like the idea that you're just like so visually focused. Like I totally get it. It's different than how I shoot. I'm very in my head about like every single word of the song. So I'm kind of like the opposite of you. But I can definitely like respect and totally understand that. And I love that you had one song stick out to you and you're like, you know what? I'm a fan of that now.
Yeah, and that was an unusual situation, really, because
Yeah.
that doesn't normally happen. But when you're shooting, you're looking. I am looking at, is there. I start predicting what's happening as far as like, okay, this singer, once he
Mm-hmm.
finishes a sentence or a lyric sentence, he looks to the left and put his head down. So I can see that this is going to happen, and I'm looking for an angle to capture
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Or you start watching the light and how it's cycling, the colors are cycling, and I'm like, okay, I wanted the orange light. So the orange light comes after the green light, and you know if I can get the guitar in the right position and the green light, that's what I want. And I'm focusing on that. I'm focusing on where this musician looks, what side is the most favoring angle for him. And I'm looking at how I can show his guitar the best, because his guitar is his thing. Like, he really, musicians usually love their instruments.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that I have a great shot of the instrument that is fully framed, and I'm not cutting anything. There's nobody in front of it, so I'm aiming for that. So I'm not really listening to.
There's so many things to focus on. Like you said, you just listed so many different things from lights to the instruments, how people are posing, like what they're doing. They're seriously so many things. I actually just
Right.
like got a chill thinking about like being back in the pit and like thinking about all the different things to shoot because I haven't shot a concert since COVID really started. So like I love that, and you are exactly correct. There's so many things to focus on, and pay attention to, and it's like, how do you do all that and listen to the music? It's just like so many things.
Also, because there's so many different styles, right? So different photography. We are all there in front of the pit, and we are all doing different things, even though the scene in front of us is the same.
Yeah.
There will be somebody that will be, shooting 1,000 frames and registering everything. And I go home sometimes with like 3 bands concert. I go home with maybe 300 photos. That's it. I do not like to take a ton of photos.
Oh, I'm the opposite. I take way too many photos.
but that's each one's individual style, right? 100%. I am very concise as far as like, okay, this is what I need. Then once I got what I need, I start looking for scenes and compositions and lighting situations that will favor that, that specific song or mood. So I watch, and then I'm like, okay, it's coming. This is going to happen now. And then I click, So I go home and I don't have thousands of shots to edit and sort. And I also am very, I don't want to say economical, but in a way, I'm very specific of what I post. I don't post a ton of shots of the same band and the same show and the same night. I usually aim for 12 to 15.
Got it.
And if I'm able to tell a story, to tell a mood, to tell, what's going on, how it was, and show their style. Because, I also am portraying somebody that has a story to tell themselves and how they perform. Yep. So if I can achieve that, if I'm lesser number of frames, it's okay too. But that's me. I know somebody that will post 70 shots of a show. I personally don't not ever look through 70 photos of somebody else's show in the same show. But some people do.
Yep. Oh, man. Honestly, Zizi, I could probably talk to you hours about how you shoot in different ways, because I think that your style and like how you shoot and like what you've posted, I've been really impressed with, and I feel like people could learn a lot from you and how you work. And I know that we've already been talking for so long, but I want you to quickly shout out where everyone can find you on social media so they can see all of your brilliant work. So can you do a quick shout out where everyone can find you online?
Yes, so on Instagram, you can find my concert work at zizi.concerts. And Zizi is Z-I-Z-I. And my camera collection is zz.cameras. That's it.
Love it. Love it. So everyone listening, please go check out Zizi's work. I know that I talked a lot about your style and everything, and I just think that your feed is very like it seems very intentional. Like all of the photos that you post are really beautiful, really well done, and like you said, you don't post a ton of like every concert, so it's very like specific, and I think it's very, very beautiful. So everyone, please go check that out. And Zizi, thank you so much for joining me. It was such an honor having you and talking to you.
It was great. It's great. And thank you.
Hopefully we'll somehow cross paths in the near future. I don't know if it'll be in Ohio or in LA. Who knows?
I hope so. Both.
Yeah. Both. We'll do both. But I hope that comes up so I can see you in the pit.